Welcome to the Real Voices podcast, where we explore the personal journeys of real estate professionals through their own unique challenges and successes. Real Voices is brought to you by Equitable Title and Escrow, providing a better approach to title and escrow through team support and innovative services. Welcome to another episode. We have another great guest with us. We have Woody Livingston with us. Thanks so much for joining us, Woody.
Thank you for having me.
Appreciate it. Hey, we've had some great conversation beforehand. I love what we were talking about before, but I just wanted to start off with just trying to get to know you a little bit better about who you are as an individual, what brought you into the industry, who you're with. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your industry?
Okay, so I am a real estate agent with HomeSmart. I've been an agent for a little over a year now, I guess almost 2 years. Prior to that, I spent a number of years, actually more years than I want to admit, in the home inspection field. So I've been, directly tied to real estate, working with buyers primarily to make sure that they knew what they were buying, and working with a lot of buyers agents. Lived here in the Valley since 1990, married a girl from Tempe. She doesn't like the snow, so bye Colorado, and hello Tempe, hello Arizona. Raised our family here, just a great time. Try and be active in the community. It's a little bit different now that the kids are all grown, so I'm not forced to be active in high school stuff and all that kind of stuff, but it's been a great life.
Right, awesome, thank you. So you said just a little over a year. Beforehand, you kind of had an opportunity to see the industry, not on the inside, but as an agent. I guess what has been the different perspective that you have now that you're a real estate agent compared to inspections?
Well, it's kind of interesting because I without having a formal mentor, I've actually had probably a dozen or so great agents that I built a relationship with over the years, and many of them were actually encouraging me to become a real estate agent for years. And they would talk about being able to develop the relationships with the clients. When you're doing the inspection, you're there, you see them for maybe half an hour at the end of the inspection or whatever, and talk to them and all that. But obviously in the process of working with somebody and finding a home, and then maybe helping their family members find homes, it's a longer term relationship. And I think they kind of saw that I really thrived on that a lot. Maybe they saw that I talked a lot and thought it would be better for me to talk at somebody else's inspection instead of theirs. I don't know. But anyway, so they were really encouraging and have been. That's one thing that is just fascinating to me about being in the real estate business is generally speaking, I think the willingness of so many people to share their knowledge. And, I've got some knowledge and experience that people like to ask me about now, and, say, hey, can you translate this inspection report for me or whatever? Right. What is it we're supposed to do? And I'll look at it and try and do my best for them that way.
I think those things are important that you kind of come to the industry with different tools. Coming into the industry out of high school, you struggle trying to figure out where you fit and who and where. So
I don't know an industry that you come into out of high school that you don't struggle, including college.
Exactly. So, I think there's something to having some other experiences before you come into the industry, just having some other background and people you can reach differently.
For years, I actually owned the master franchise for the home inspection company that I owned for Arizona. And I would have really young people approach me about buying a franchise. And, there was money in it for me to sell them a franchise, but I don't know if it's just the dad factor that kicks in or whatever. But, I'd try and talk with them and say, in my own life, before I owned my own business, I worked for some really great companies and some not so great companies. Right. But, a certain cable company here in the Valley, I worked for them for many years and really learned a lot from them. And they paid me to learn a lot. Right. And that's just incredible, valuable experience. I firmly believe in advanced education, college, and all of that, to learn what you need to learn to know to thrive in life. But there's also just a lot of stuff that's fun to know. Right. And so, the people skills, the accountability. I know this is really funny. I shouldn't admit this in public, but one of the reasons that I really wanted to have my own business more than anything else is because my managers at that large cable company in the advertising sales were always, wanting projections. And I'm like, I don't know what people are going to buy. And I thought, if I get rid of that, then I won't have to have that anymore. Guess what? As soon as you own a business, you got to know. You got to be figuring that out.
For sure.
And it's more important than ever. So I would really tell anybody that's really young thinking about going into the business, it's a phenomenal business to get into. But there's all kinds of things that you can learn in other places. And if you do decide to go to school and get your license, that's great. But don't let that, and it doesn't matter at what age you are, don't let that be the end of your education on it. The law requires you to have a certain amount of continuing education, but you can learn so much from people. And I would say, find those people that are willing to give you their knowledge and pump them for all the information they'll give to you, and listen to them, and then do what you want to do anyway. But at least listen to them, prove them right by doing the opposite.
I hear you. So you mentioned something a little bit earlier, that one of the reasons they were telling you to get in was because of the people, as the relationship building aspect. So you're not like a cold caller. You're not on the phones pounding out the phones all the time. How does that?
It's really funny because right when I got in the business, excuse me, one of the agents that was mentoring me told me about this affiliate that did great things and everything. Hey, you really need to get in touch with them. So I did, and they said, hey, by the way, we know about this great website and all that kind of stuff. And I said, yeah, that's great. Well, it is just flat out too much. I own it still. I'm still paying on it every month, but it is so much more of the, just generating massive numbers of leads and being on, and I'm just not that. I tend to, as you've started to notice here, I tend to open my mouth and talk to people, and I'm not too shy about that. And that's where I've, been finding my clients is just people that I know, people that I meet. My wife and kids tease me because back when I was growing a garden a lot, I would have a whole bunch of tomatoes, and I'm like, well, what am I going to do with these? So I throw them in a paper bag and bring them around the neighborhood and see somebody on their way into their house. You need tomatoes, and that kind of stuff. And it's just fun. You get to know people and all that. And really, in the process, especially now working with buyers where it takes so much to really find a house for most people, you get to know them, and you get to love them, and they become dear friends. And I'm old enough that a lot of my clients have been kind of like adopted kids after a while, and my kids will probably be upset when those people get Christmas presents and my kids don't. I don't know.
Well, anyway. I could appreciate that. A lot of the times, especially coming in early on, the thought is that you have to make all those cold calls, and that's how you have to build your business, and that's how it's built. But I just appreciate the aspect of it really is a relationship, long-term business, and cold calling new friends is a really hard way to find new friends, right?
Yeah, I'm not one to call up my friends, and I've been kind of shy about it. And I've got a couple of responsibilities in my community and my church and things like that, and I do not want to leverage my faith for
food,
money, for that's I've owned my own, been in business for myself for decades and never done that. And I don't believe in being shy about your faith, but I also don't believe in, this church leader that we had years ago, I think it was Marvin J. Ashton, one time said that if anybody comes to you and gives as their primary reason you should do business with them the fact that they go to church with you, then you need to hold onto your wallet with both hands and run. And I kind of firmly believe that. And that's part of life too, is just meeting people of various faiths and backgrounds, and just I've made Muslim friends that were refugees, and just hearing that experience and all that kind of stuff, and people that look just like me, like you and I look just like each other, and we have so much in common because of that. But that's what makes life fun, and being able to really represent people, and sometimes seeing through some of the garbage that's out there in the world, and saying, okay, in order to represent this client well, I'm going to have to be a little bit of a bulldog for him, and maybe push things a little bit better, because the way the world's set up, it doesn't really favor them. We got to make sure that they're on that equal footing, and protecting them that way, and advocating for them that way. It's kind of fun.
I appreciate that. Thank you. So outside of the everyday challenges, finding homes for your clients and those type of things, what do you think is kind of your biggest struggle right now, where are you feeling your biggest frustration is?
With my industry or in my life in
With
general?
with your industry.
Are you Dr. Marlowe here?
No, we can get to life a little later.
You're getting a new,
But just in the
new
industry,
career
just kind
going on here.
of what's frustrating for you?
You know what? It is interesting. I've met a lot of people that just say, houses, and mostly people that have been around the block a little bit with me, that say, houses are so expensive right now. I'm going to wait. I just need to wait until, the prices come down. Well, 15 years ago, nobody thought that way, right? Because nobody had ever seen prices come down. Then we had that, tumble.
Right.
Well, I'm old enough again. I remember 1990, and we had a little thing called the savings and loan crisis, and things went down. So things do go up and down. But trying to help people understand now, again, because you care about them, that there's a lot of forces in play right now. And interest rates are really low. Tons and tons of people are moving to Arizona. There's tons of demand for housing. And guess what? I think everybody that pays attention to anything knows that inflation is either solidly here right now or coming. And the cost of everything that goes into building that house is not going to go down.
Right.
So you have the chance to lock in your housing costs for 30 years pretty well.
Right.
And, have that part of your life be secure, you probably ought to think about doing it. Make sure you're in the place that you want to be for the next X amount of time. And it's probably more urgent now that they do that than it has been in many years. And that's kind of the thing. And most of my clients kind of see that, understand that. But we're all human.
That leap of faith.
Yeah, we're all human. We get the sticker shot. I moved into this neighborhood X number of years ago, and we paid $100,000 for our house, and now they say it's worth $500,000. You got to be crazy.
That's crazy. I didn't do anything to this place, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And that's true. Those people might not have earned anything by just owning that house for a few years, but
they'd have. Been,
they have.
Yeah, that's an interesting perspective. It's tough trying to help people understand that. I actually just read a quote. I don't remember where I saw it at or who said it, but it was something along the lines that you don't wait to buy real estate. You buy real estate and then wait.
I said that.
Oh, was
no,
that
just
you?
Kidding.
Awesome.
I'll claim it.
I thought that was grim. Like, that. And when I was doing mortgages, I kind of taught people along those lines. I'm like, if you're trying to make this as an investment, then we look at it that way. But if you're buying a home, then you don't really look at it that way. Is it a good place to raise your children? The family, the memories and things that you build there will far outweigh and outstrip the profit. And if you happen to get some along the way, then that's icing on the cake. But it's just, you need to be, how are you looking at that particular, is this an asset or investment? What is this for you?
Yeah, and it's really fun to see people kind of go through that. In fact, I had a couple that I was working with as buyers earlier this year, and this guy's a financial guy. I mean, he's got he might have a master's degree in finance. He's definitely got a bachelor's in finance, and he thinks numbers, right? And they bought their first home and then built an additional dwelling unit there, so they had a little rental income and all that. And when I was working with him, it was to buy the next one, and then he wanted to do the same thing. And we were going around, and because of his work schedule and stuff, I had opportunity to look at several houses with his wife. And I got this feeling that she was looking for a home. She wasn't necessarily looking for the investment, And we get to be really good friends, and he kind of opens up with me about his plans. He's got a great corporate job now, but he's got a little side gig going on that he wants to get going. And again, the dad mode kind of kicks in or whatever. And I said, here's what I might suggest to you. Make sure that she's comfortable and she's happy, and that partnership is solid,
Right.
And the other stuff will kind of come into play. But if you have it where she's not, it's really going to make this financial side hard. It's going to make your going towards your goals and aspirations hard. So, he was a wise man. He listened to my advice. You're right. Anyway, they really did that, and they looked and found a home that actually had an apartment already as part of it, which was great, and they were patient enough to do that. But now she's the one that she'll reach out to me and she goes, you know what, I think this place could have another dwelling unit put on. So because she's confident in her living situation, they can go on together and move forward. And I think that that's really important, that families, whatever the family looks like, individuals, households, whatever it looks like, that everybody that's in that game kind of needs to be on the same page,
Even the kids.
Even the kids.
Even the kids.
Yeah.
Sometimes we don't think about what, even their perspective. Like, we don't really know what's going on with them. And just bringing them into, hey, we're thinking about moving. What are you thinking? What do you think? So.
Yeah. I've been with those families where they finally get an offer accepted on the house, and they bring the kids over, and the kids are kind of like this, and then they see the pool, and it's like, or whatever, right. or they see the cute girl that lives next door, and it's like, yeah, okay, we can live here, and it's like, okay, whatever it takes,
Right. Cool. Thank you. So just kind of talking about family, I like to kind of discuss a little bit about your upbringing and what it was like for you and who you looked up to as a kid. What was that like for you when you're, taking back as a kid? Who was it that where you're like, man, I want to be like that person?
You're going to get me all emotional here. So I think they invented a lot of words to describe my family after, I'd grown up. Back in the day, my mom had some mental and emotional issues. She was called manic depressive then. I think they'd call it bipolar now. She was sweet. There was never any of the real bad stuff that I know does happen. My dad was also alcoholic, and so that just had a lot of uncertainty in my life. And there were some amazing people, church friends that just kind of drew me in, and my sister in, and different families or whatnot, and my brother. And we all had that. But as I've gotten older, I've also realized that extended family was incredible. Both sets of grandparents were incredible. I don't remember either set of grandparents criticizing who their child married, right? Mm-hmm. Which in that kind of situation could be a lot, right? And I don't even remember my parents putting us in between. They ended up getting divorced and all that. And I don't remember that. That may have happened some, but I don't remember that. But as I've gotten older, and I will answer your question, I promise. As I've gotten older, just realizing that both of my parents did the best they could has been incredibly liberating to me, and I appreciate them more. My dad's been gone now 10 years. My mom's been gone almost 25 years or so now. But I appreciate them more for doing the best they could. And so really those people, the people you ask on who I really admired, even still, I just kind of want to be a dad. Mm-hmm. Now I get to be a grandpa, which is really cool. But growing up, if you were to ask me what I wanted to be, everybody wants, back then, everybody wanted to be a cowboy for a while. Everybody wanted to be a football star. Everybody, for a little while, I never even dreamed I would be a rock star. I just didn't have that kind of rhythm or voice or anything. But everybody wants to do something like that, But really, the one thing I just really wanted to make sure I did was being a dad, and that has absolutely brought the most joy in my life that I can. So much so that, like I say, now I meet people that are a little bit younger than me, and it's kind of like, okay, here's the adoption paperwork. Every once in a while, I'll meet somebody that's quite a bit older than me, and I'll want to be adopted. So.
Right. Thank you for sharing that. I appreciate that. It's hard when you're a kid trying to figure out what your parents are doing. I think it's because we idolize them, right? We just assume they know everything, and they don't. They're young and they're growing up, trying to raise themselves with us, and so it takes a mature mind to kind of reach back and really realize that what's happened. So
a mature mind, you could also say old age. But you just realize that things go on, and then a little bit of experience. You don't have to look far. I don't care what stage of life you're in. You don't have to look far to find people that have it harder than you, or at least that you're not willing to trade your troubles with.
Right.
To really to recognize when you're blessed. And, I've been married for years to the most incredible woman that has just been patient with me and everything, and just a lot to be thankful for. And it's great, in the day and age that we live in now, to be able to have a lot of the artificial barriers broken down and see people in whatever family situation they've decided to create for themselves. or maybe they're transitioning from one family situation to another, and to see them do that and still realize, that, wow, they're a child of God just like everybody else, and they're doing the best they can. And one thing that my dad taught me early on was just don't do anything that hurts people. Do no harm. You might not be able to help anybody, but make sure that you don't hurt them.
Right.
So.
It's a good motto.
Yeah.
Right. I thank you. I appreciate that.
Appreciate it.
So I sound, I like to ask, what are you most proud of? But I get a sense for your, just your family and what you're able to do there. So just I want to talk about maybe something that you've learned along the way that maybe changed your thoughts, life, someone you've run into that maybe just made you think a little bit different about where you were going. Is there something you can think of?
Oh man, so many. Just those quiet moments where you see, maybe you see somebody pass. My wife's mother. You're supposed to get emotional when you talk about your mother-in-law. Not this kind of emotion.
That's a good thing.
If your voice cracks.
That's a good thing.
Anyway, she passed away a week ago or so.
Sorry about that.
And but it was good. It was good that it happened because it was after 10 years of Alzheimer's. And frankly, my wife and I for years have prayed that the time would come when she was ready, because we didn't want to see her suffering like that. But then to reflect back and to count as real true blessings all those little things that were able to happen along the way, and then the years and years before of just delightful times, and the fact that she raised the woman that I'm married to, and all that kind of stuff has just been really amazing. My wife's father passed away very suddenly, and he was a guy that was just everything that I'm not. Got one job out of high school, worked for Garrett Air Industries in Tempe for his entire life, retired from them when they were Honeywell, and literally started out, sweeping the warehouse floor and ended up running the whole shipping department and all that kind of stuff. Just an amazing guy, because he just showed up every day, and very unassuming and all of that. But again, once you look at the totality of his life and the friendships that he made and the people that he served and what he did for his family in his way was incredible. I had to lie about him when I was starting a project around my house. It's like, yeah, I'm putting up ceiling fans, but don't come over, because he didn't believe in reading instructions, right? But he would be the guy that if he finds out I'm putting up ceiling fans, he's over, and he lived an hour away, So it was those things that you just really love about him. And so I have no idea what you asked me.
Oh, no.
Before.
Those were the lessons, the lessons. So those are, again, just watching people. I like to let people know you have no idea how many people are watching you, like from afar, close up. Every little thing you're doing. I just had an instance in the grocery store the other night. It was a case of mistaken identity. Guy thought I was looking at some girl. He's like, man, I saw you looking at that. I was like, what did he just say? And as I walked out the door, I'm like, man, he thought I was just checking out that girl. I don't know what I did to make him think that, but I realized that, he was across the store and he saw something, how much people are watching you in the just most unassuming things. And so I think you should just always be on. If that's who you want to be, you always need to be on.
You got to be on, but you got to be on the true.
Right. Exactly.
You got to. So I'm a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and grew up with an alcoholic dad. And when I was in high school, he was going through DTs, sobering up, and we lived in a tiny little town. And guess who went and bought him his pint of Sunnybrook whiskey so that he'd get through it, right? And back in that day, you could.
Right.
The teenage kid drove up to the one liquor store in town, and they sold it to me.
Right.
And for all I know, they knew who my dad was and knew, he's probably about
right. There's that time.
And then, I have gone in where other people were just really, really sick and needed, some cigarettes or something, And I thought, you're walking out of this smoke shop or walking out of whatever, and you just bought a pack of cigarettes or whatever. Is anybody going to see you? And I thought, well, the one guy that's going to see me, that it really matters, knows why I'm doing it.
Right.
So
who cares?
Then who cares,
Yeah.
And I hope I don't hurt anybody's feeling or anything like that. You don't want to go out there and be in somebody's face, but you try and do what's right, you know. One time I worked for a really, you're gonna think I bounced around all over the place, which I kind of did, I guess, for a few years. But I worked for a huge company, and they put us through a week of ethics training, and we had to literally all fly into their main area and sit there and watch videotapes. That shows how long ago it was. Watch videotapes on ethics training. They didn't even have anybody there to do it, right? And at the end, the chairman of the company, the guy whose last name was McDonnell, as in McDonnell Douglas, tell you who it was, comes on and he says, you know, about all of this matters is that if I'm sitting on the couch watching 60 Minutes and my mother's on this side and my daughter's on this side and they have a story about me, I want to be able to sit there and watch the whole show with them. I don't have to change the channel, you know. And that's kind of really what it comes down to. And when you're blessed to have people you care about in your life that mean something to you, and what you represent means something to you, then it helps you to make the right decisions, you know. And we're in a business that, you know, you're going into other people's houses, you're a guest in their home, you need to treat their property with respect. You know, you sit down and you're going over things that really matter to people with the contracts and things like that, and you just really, really got to think, okay, if somebody was to, you know, if my entire family was to watch this, would my mother slap me? Would my daughter cry? You know, so,
That's great.
As long as you can keep your mother from slapping you, you're doing pretty good in life, I think. So.
I like that. I like it. I think it was something you posted. You were mentioning your dad. And I think you said that he quit drinking every Sunday. Was that you who said that? Maybe it wasn't. I'm sure it was. I'm sure it was something you posted.
I post stuff about my dad,
and it was. I think it was something along the lines that you said he stopped. He quit drinking like there was a point in time he quit.
Well, there was. I mean, and when you're a child of an alcoholic, you think that there's going to, hopefully you're thinking that there's going to be a time when if dad just wouldn't drink anymore, my life would be perfect, right? In fact, I remember when my parents kind of announced to the family that they were getting divorced, the one person that was really honest about it, I think, was my aunt, my dad's little sister. And she was really upset by it. And she knew she was the house that we would go to, you know. She was the evacuation center we would go to, my sister and I, when things were too bad, you know. But she was upset about it. And she says, well, what do you think about this? And she's sitting there smoking a cigarette. And she was like the dean of the business school at University of Colorado. She was an accomplished woman in the 1970s. That was something. So she's sitting there smoking the cigarette. What do you think about it? And I said, I don't think dad will drink anymore. And she laughed. She put down, she goes, look, I knew your dad before he ever met your mother. Right. He drank that. You know, it's going to be like that. You know, so, you know, dad wrestled with it, but he got to the point where those times were longer and longer in between. And he gave us those times, and Alcoholics Anonymous gave us those times, and God gave us those times where we could really bind. And he was out there. I mean, he you know, in Alcoholics Anonymous, you don't have to be as anonymous these days, I don't think, as they did back then. But you know, he was willing to like have his picture in the newspaper at a halfway house he was managing and stuff like that. He was willing to go out there and do it, and I'm really proud of him for that kind of stuff.
I appreciate that. It just, when I read that, I was like, man, that's just you never stop. You just keep trying, right?
Every day.
Keep it up.
Every day. And everybody's
right.
It. You know,
we got our demons.
In my faith, we call it repentance. Most of the world just wants to call it change.
Right.
You know, and you gotta change.
Right.
You know, you gotta change. If
Gotta
you're
grow.
not changing, life's really kind of boring.
Growth
There you go.
is important. Thank you. I appreciate you being willing to share that. Do you have a favorite book you like to read that you go back to, or you're like, hey man, you got to read this book?
Oh my goodness. You know what? I am a huge history buff.
Okay.
And anything by David McCullough, I just love. 1776. One of the books that he wrote that I think is really, really fascinating because it's a look into 20th century history, and you can just, as you read the book, you can see the change. He wrote a biography of Harry Truman, which nobody's ever heard of, right? But he won awards for it, which he wins all the time, I guess. But it's like that thick, you know. but you just read about, you know, the backroom politics that happened and how Harry Truman was in it. Now, my father was in boot camp when they dropped the atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. So nobody could ever say anything bad about Harry Truman to my dad, right?
Thank you. Right.
Yeah. But you see that, you know, he was having to play the political games. Great president, had to play political games and stuff. And then you just kind of see what the country went through. And I think historical perspective is important for people, because we see, you know, like people that are 45 now that remember when they saw their friends, or maybe they were the ones that lost their homes when the market fell apart now. You know, that's kind of important to know that kind of thing can happen, you know. But you can see that I never knew that he almost nationalized the railways after World War II because there were strikes. You know, you just hear the war ended, and then it was the baby boom, and all this great stuff happened, right? It was tough times. So, you know, I love anything by McCormick. You know, 1776, where he's talking about Washington, George Washington, is just amazing. Cool. We've had the opportunity to go to a lot of those places and just kind of feel that there's some really amazing things that happened in our country's history. So.
Cool. Awesome. I appreciate that. Well, I appreciate you coming on. Had a great discussion with you. Where can people find you?
Well, Woody Livingston, HomeSmart Realty. I'm on Facebook. I've got a website, woodylivingston.com.
What about your phone number?
602-206-9957. I'd love to talk to anybody.
Awesome. I appreciate you coming.
And I promise not to talk as long as I made you talk.
Thanks for coming on. I appreciate it, man.
Thank you. Take care.